There are moments in life when everything you believe shatters in an instant, and for me, that moment came on an ordinary Friday night. I was at home, exhausted after a long week, sprawled on the couch watching a baseball game on my phone. Then my phone buzzed. It was my friend Eric, a guy I had known since college. He was never one for dramatic messages, which made the single sentence he sent all the more chilling. "Dude, I think your wife is cheating on you. She's at Lenny's live streaming some guy." I stared at my phone, my pulse hammering against my ribs. My first instinct was to laugh it off, not because I thought it was impossible, but because I didn't want to believe it. I knew my wife, Olivia, loved attention, thrived on it. She had always been the life of the party, the woman who turned heads, who basked in admiration like it was air. But cheating, that was another level entirely. Eric sent a screenshot next. My hands tightened around my phone as I opened it. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Olivia sitting in a dimly lit bar, leaning into a man I didn't recognize, her expression playful, sultry. Her phone was in her hand, and the live streaming icon glowed in the corner of the screen. She was broadcasting this. Broadcasting her betrayal. A roaring sound filled my ears. It felt like the ground beneath me had been ripped away, like I was free-falling into a pit I hadn't even seen coming. I stood abruptly, my vision tunneling. I grabbed my keys. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of Lenny's, my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had gone white. I scanned the entrance, my breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. I didn't even have a plan. I just knew I had to see it with my own eyes. Inside, the bar was packed. Music pounded, laughter echoed, and there she was, Olivia, sitting at the bar with a man I had never seen before, her body angled toward him, one hand casually resting on his arm. I felt physically ill. I forced myself to step forward, each movement slow and deliberate, my fists clenched at my sides. She was laughing at something he said, tilting her head back in a way that made my stomach churn. And then she saw me. Her expression collapsed in an instant, like a child caught stealing from the cookie jar. Her grip tightened on her phone, her knuckles pale as if she had just remembered she had been broadcasting the entire thing. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by something else, defiance. "James," she said, her voice overly casual, as if we had just bumped into each other at the grocery store. "What are you doing here?" I couldn't even speak. I could only stare at her, at the smug bastard sitting beside her, at the way every eye in the bar was suddenly on us. People whispered. The bartender looked uncomfortable. "Is this your husband?" the guy beside her asked, amused. I didn't answer. My hands were trembling, not with fear, but with barely contained fury. Olivia sighed, shaking her head like I was some fool overreacting. "James, stop making a scene. It's just drinks." Something inside me snapped. I grabbed her phone off the bar, my movements too fast for her to react, and turned the screen toward her. Her own livestream was still running, hundreds of comments flooding the chat. "Oof, she's busted. Bro, run. Damn, what a queen. Cheating and broadcasting it." Her eyes widened in horror. "James, give me my phone." I didn't. I raised it high above my head and then, with a sharp motion, slammed it against the floor. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of broken glass and shame. The bar fell silent. Olivia gasped. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I leaned in, my voice low enough that only she could hear. "You just live-streamed yourself cheating on me, Olivia." She swallowed hard, but there was no apology in her expression, only irritation, as if I were the one ruining her night. I turned on my heel and walked out, my body buzzing with rage. But I wasn't done. Not even close. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office, my laptop glowing in the dark, scrolling through Olivia's social media. She had built a perfect image online, curated pictures, inspirational captions, staged moments of a marriage she had no respect for. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. By morning, I had a plan. The first step was gathering evidence. Olivia was careless. I went through our shared laptop, through the messages she thought she had deleted, the ones she had sent to friends, the casual mentions of work trips that didn't match up to her actual location. I compiled everything into a neatly organized folder. Then, I made a phone call to her office. "Hi, this is James Carter," I said when her assistant picked up. "I need to speak to Olivia's supervisor. It's urgent." Within minutes, I was patched through. "I think you should know," I said, keeping my voice steady, "that Olivia's been using company time for personal activities. And I have proof." Her boss sounded intrigued, then alarmed, as I laid it all out, the messages, the timestamps, the bar incident, which, as it turned out, had already spread through our town like wildfire. By the end of the call, her job was hanging by a thread. But that was only step one. The real revenge was yet to come. I spent the rest of the day making arrangements. I called a printing company. I designed something special. And by the time evening rolled around, I was ready to destroy her life the way she had destroyed mine. The next morning, I woke up early, just before dawn, and drove downtown. The sun was just beginning to rise as I pulled up in front of Olivia's office building. I got out of my car, a stack of rolled banners in my arms. Then, one by one, I put them up. They were massive. Bright red. Bold black lettering. "Beware, cheater. Olivia Carter betrays her husband. Faithful at work? Think again." I taped them across the front of the building, on the lamp posts, on the fence near the parking lot. By the time people arrived at the office, Olivia's sins were impossible to ignore. And then, I waited. It didn't take long. She pulled into the parking lot 30 minutes later, her car screeching to a stop when she saw the banners. I could see the panic setting in, the way she clutched the steering wheel, her mouth slightly open in shock. People were staring. Her coworkers whispered. I stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. She stumbled out of the car, starting toward me. "James." I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "Something wrong, Olivia?" Her hands were shaking. "You're insane." I took a step toward her, my voice deadly calm. "No, Olivia. I'm just done being your fool." She didn't even have a response. She just stood there, humiliated, exposed, ruined. The banners flapped in the cold morning air, bright red, screaming out her sins to the world. Coworkers whispered. Some pointed. Others avoided looking at her at all. Her face was pale, lips trembling. She finally understood. She stepped forward, fists clenched. "James, please. This is too much." I smiled. "Too much? Like live streaming your affair in front of hundreds of people?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I can fix this. I'll quit. We can move." I stepped closer. "There is no we anymore, Olivia." She broke. A sob escaped her throat, her hands clutching at me like she had the right to hold on. I messed up. I was stupid. I pulled away. "No, Olivia. You were selfish. You wanted attention. And now you have it." She turned, saw her boss approaching. "Olivia," he said, tight-lipped. "Inside." "Now." Her whole body shuddered. She knew. I leaned in one last time, my voice low. "Enjoy your new reputation." She looked back, her eyes hollow. "James." But I was already walking away.